friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. Just going to add this little quick front end on this video because the video turned out to be something different than I had envisioned when I started putting it together. Basically, it is about the neck build, but the neck build really is just a small portion of this video. I'm going to put up a table of contents right now so that you can see all the topics discussed in this video. I'll put it on a black screen and give you some time there, and you can pause it if you would like to see what's going on. And by the way, very few of my viewers are subscribers, so please change that and click the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and that way you'll be more apt to see the videos as I put them out. Thank you. It's Sunday, December 29th, 2019, soon to be 2020. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. We had a very wonderful time with family and friends, and matter of fact, we had our 4th family gathering yesterday. That was the last one, I believe, so now back to business as usual. As the video implies, this is going to be the video on building the neck on that guitar, but because of all the Christmas holidays and spending time with family, I wasn't able to make a lot of progress, but I did actually get the neck made. Before we get to that video, I would just like to bring you up to speed on a few things. There's some changes coming. I want to say a couple of thank yous and just some other general news. First of all, I'm sporting one of my Christmas presents. This is from my daughter, Rochelle. Rochelle is R-O-C-H-E-L-L-E, in case you're wondering. She got me that shirt, which, you know, hey, if the shoe fits. I like it. So thank you, Rochelle, for that. But she also got me this shirt. Now this shirt, the one I'm about to show you, has a double meaning. It's a play on words, first of all. As you can see, weapon of grass destruction. She bought it just referring to the fact that, you know, a mandolin, and of course perhaps even the way I play it, it's a weapon of bluegrass destruction, if you will. So it's kind of a play on words there with mass destruction, grass destruction. And that's what she was thinking about it. But as soon as I saw the style of mandolin that it is, now some of you will think that's just an A-style mandolin, and it is not. It's one of the bullback style mandolins. They call them a Neapolitan. There's all kinds of names for them. I call them a chili dipper. But this particular mandolin, if you tried to use that in bluegrass, you would definitely have a weapon of grass destruction in your hands. This kind of mandolin just doesn't work in bluegrass at all. In fact, I seriously don't know a single quote-unquote serious bluegrass musician that plays that style of mandolin. Now, that's not to put the mandolin down. It's just the style of music we play. That mandolin just doesn't work in that style of music. That's all I'm saying about it. That's no political statement or anything. But that's the double meaning behind it, is that if you tried to use that style mandolin in bluegrass, it would definitely be a weapon of grass destruction. So she didn't even realize that, and when she gave it to me, but she thought that was kind of funny too. Well, I hope you all got some very nice Christmas presents as well. Moving right along, I want to tell you about some other things going on connected with videos and the channel. And the first thing I really want to do is just stop and say thank you for another wonderful year. I put a video out a while back, and a lot of people thought I was whining or begging for compliments or something like that. And the video, I think the title was, "Do My Videos Have Any Value?" Well, I know a lot of people made a comment, oh, he's just fishing for compliments. Well, I truly wasn't. In fact, I didn't really expect to get many replies or responses. It was kind of a rhetorical question, if you will. And I was trying to get to understand, you know, is this worth doing, or is it maybe, you know, am I just kind of spinning my wheels here, you know? I never, ever dreamed, never, ever suspected the videos had the impact they do. I'm overwhelmed, I'm floored, I'm flattered, I'm just humbled. Truly am. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't believe the response I got on that. I truly did not know. And, see, the thing is that, it's the perspective thing. From your perspective, you think it's very obvious. From my perspective, I'm the soldier down in the trench. I'm fighting. My mission is to stay alive, and, and somebody's trying to kill me. Well, I saw, the silent minority. You see all the people trying to kill you all the time because they're very vocal. The silent majority, you hear from, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was getting a lot of nice compliments, but you got to realize I got 400 plus videos out there, almost 500 now, and, you hear from all of those videos all the time, and the big mouths are the ones you hear from quite often, and you don't see that, and I do. And I begin to think, is this even worth it? I'm just putting up with all this crap for nothing, And, but honestly, you changed my perspective, and I truly am overwhelmed. So thank you again. Thank you very much. I now understand the impact these videos are having. I now understand how important they are to some people. And in fact, I'm just floored by the response. So, you won't hear me complaining about the complainers anymore because I just had no idea. Truly. Maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm just tunnel vision, I don't know. But I didn't have any idea. Got a cool letter from one of my customers about video number 278. Video number 278 was the Gibson from England rebuild. And then I put, well, almost. I mean, it was kind of almost like a rebuild, And those were parts 1 through 3. Well, he finally got his guitar back. That was quite a while ago, you understand. But he was in England, and his son had to deliver it to him. And actually, he was supposed to come back here in the spring and pick it up. So he wasn't even supposed to get it until this spring. Well, his son, I think, made a trip to England for the Christmas holidays and brought the guitar to him. So he got the guitar and sent me a letter, which I am very pleased to read to you. He says, my Gibson J50 that you practically rebuilt made its way back across the pond as a surprise Christmas present. I tuned the guitar up to pitch with some nervousness. It looks very different now. For years, I have seen a tiny bridge that had been reduced down to compensate for the neck angle. It had almost no saddle above the bridge. Now it has a high bridge and a high saddle, acres of break angle on the strings. The bow in front of the guitar has been considerably reduced, not to mention the fretboard, which is no longer worn out with huge dishes. And that's after 66 years of playing. He goes on to say, since I picked it up, I have hardly put the guitar down. It sounds great. No rattles, no buzzes. He said, the action is as perfect as I could have wished for. It has clarity and plays equally well all over the fretboard. The tone is lovely. The strings balance seems perfect. There doesn't seem to be a string that is trying to raise its voice over the others. He said, sending an old guitar from North Bedfordshire, UK to Missouri, USA was a load of effort and expense with a lot of risk. And I'm sure he read the comments, and he says, maybe I should have saved the money and put it toward a different guitar in better shape. Well, the ordeal is over now, and I can answer those kinds of questions. Was it worth the effort? And he has 100% yes. Was it worth the money? He says, I think so. I now have a 1953 Gibson J50 that plays and sounds like a dream. It is 100% constructurally sound, no longer feels like it's about to fall to bits. Okay, it's no longer 100% original, but it is 100% beautiful old guitar, and it plays like a dream. So he goes on to say, so thank you, Jerry, for such a wonderful job, your time, patience, and expertise. I will send some videos of the guitar being played in due course, and I hope he does that. He wishes me a Merry Christmas, and he adds on there, you are a genius. Well, I knew that already. I'm sorry. I'm just being silly. I'm just being silly. I'm so pleased that you're pleased. I hope you all enjoyed that update on the guitar. We sell, you know, I do get a lot of updates. I don't often read them, but I thought this one was a little extra special because of going, you know, all the way to England. So thank you for that note and that update. I'm sure the people watching this video appreciate it as well. Okay, there's some changes coming. At least I kind of hope so. They're good things. At least I think they are. Some of you might not agree. My brother got into laser cutting, the one that you saw in one of my videos playing a guitar. He's a musical genius in his own right, and he's also a tinkerer like me, builds and makes all kinds of little things and gadgets and always tinkering with something. Well, he's gotten into the laser cutter deal, and he's been at it for over a year now, and he makes all kinds of things with his laser cutter, and he's actually throwing hits at me that I should get one, you know, and finally at Christmas time he showed me some stuff that he's been doing, and I said, I'm getting one. Well, it's already here. That's how serious I was. I thought, man, I gotta have one of these. This is what he did with it. Now you think, you know, you think at first glance that he burned that in there. He did not. He actually took the laser cutter, cut the cavity out, then actually cut out these letters out of a different kind of wood and then put them in there. And you can see how tight that is. It's like nearly perfect. I can't do it that good no matter how hard I try. This took him 5 minutes, he said. 5 minutes. I spend at least a full day to get that kind of result. I can't afford to spend a full day when I can spend 5 minutes and actually do better and more consistent work. Now, I am not one of these kind of guys that will just change something to save, just to save time or just to save money. I'm not that kind of guy. But if I can save money, improve the quality, and be more consistent, then to me it's worth it. Unlike, as an example, and I'm sorry, I hate to use Gibson again. Unlike Gibson, who would have put that plywood bridge pad in a guitar. Some people said that's not a real Gibson because it's got a. They didn't do. Well, they did do that, and there's an article talking about it. And I'm going to put the article on the screen here for like 5 seconds for each page. You can pause on each page and read the article if you want to. But that's just an example. I'm not that kind of change worthy. I'm not going to make changes that are going to degrade my quality. But if I can make a change that's going to save me time, even money, you know, and improve the quality, well then by gosh, I'm going to make those changes. So yes, I've already bought a laser cutter and I am going to learn how to use it. And here it is. Before anybody tells me, yes, I already know, I've done a ton of research already, watched a ton of videos. These things are dangerous as heck. I mean, can put your eyes out like that. I mean, put your eyes out. You know, where you hear that as a joke all the time, but this laser beam can cut your eyeball and you have no eye. This is just part of it. Another example of how you've got to be careful. The wiring on these kinds of things is just crap, for lack of a better term. You can see the little flimsy, this is like a phone cord wire they have for this. And I've seen videos on people taking this cover off and how crappily it's wired inside here. Yeah, so I'm going to redo anything and everything. I'm inspecting it top to bottom, and I'm going to be very, very, very careful with it. I have already ordered the safety glasses from a medical supply company. I didn't just order the average one off of eBay or whatever. So I'm ordering the glasses that should protect my eyes. I am also going to do my own wiring, and I'm going to wire in a safety switch on this so that when you lift this cover, it automatically kills the machine. This has no safety built into it at all. So I am going to improve it a lot, just because that's the kind of guy I am. As you know by my fingernails here, you know, I'm not an overly safety conscious fellow. But I am safe when it counts, you know. I mean, like, I smash my fingers all the time. Most of the time, and most of these lately have been on firewood, and that's what this was, by the way. Hauling, loading firewood. It just happens, you know. If you work, stuff like that happens. The point is that you can rest assured I'll be safe with it, and I guarantee you this machine will be as good as any machine in use when I get done with it. It'd probably be a lot better than most. Here's some other inlay that he did with it, and again, just a few minutes worth of work, you know, and that's another thing. And look how tiny the little inlay is. I mean, he put it in there. It's amazing. And then, of course, he also, and this doesn't show up very well, but he also etched this piece of abalone shell there that you can probably see the etching on top of it. It doesn't seem to cut the shell, but it does etch it. And that etching even might help saw it out better. Although that's kind of a wash because I printed on a label and saw it out anyway, but then the label comes undone. It's a pain in the neck. So the label's not a very perfect solution. This may be a better solution for that even. So I may still be sawing out abalone shell by hand. I don't know. And then he did just another couple of designs here that you can see. You can see here he did this one. This is the rastering where he just burned it in. And this one here he did the outline. So you can see that it's got a lot of possibilities. I've also received lots of requests over the years for things with my logo on them, you know, like maybe even a keychain or something with a logo on it or something. Or a desk, maybe a little desk plaque or something with a logo. And obviously, this will allow me to do all that too once I get up to speed. Now, it's going to take me a while to get up to speed. I hope I'm up to speed by the time I'm ready to do the inlay on the guitar that we're going to show you in this video. That may or may not happen, but we'll see. My brother's helping me, so that'll help me get up to speed because he's already an expert on the thing. Friends, I just wanted to give you a quick update, just a kind of a final word on the improvements to my dust collection system. If you haven't seen that video, it's worth your time to watch it, especially if you're a woodworker and have a dust issue. Here's the final product, as you saw in the previous video. Well, after I was finished constructing them, so that I wouldn't contaminate the glue, I used this wax and I just rubbed it on both surfaces like this, push it back in and out, rub it on this one, you know, and all that, and then push it back in and out. I even used the heat gun on it to soak it in a little bit and then do it again. And they slide real nice and they're firm, don't get me wrong, but there's no air leaks, but they slide pretty darn easy. Even when the air's on and there's a lot of pressure, they slide pretty easy. So that's a good way to do it, I think. I was concerned that this joint might not be strong enough. It seems perfectly strong. I don't think there's any problem with that. Just one last little bit of a follow-up is, as I mentioned in the video, if you're going to need some 2-inch ones, I'd still just build them as 4-inch ones. But if I were you, I would just put this on both sides of the ones that need a 2-inch, and then just adapt it down with regular pipe fittings down to 2-inch. And then at the last, where you put your 2-inch hose into it, you may have to tape or put some caulk in there. You know, the silicone caulk would be perfect, that 100% silicone caulk, to seal that last little connection. Wow, was it ever worth it? When you're sliding the floor cleaning head across the floor, you know, I used to almost feel no resistance. Now it's almost hard to push. You know, of course, if you just keep it at a slight angle from the floor, it pushes fine and just sucks the dirt up like nobody's business. Well worth time spent. Hope you'll take me up on it and make your own, because these are way more efficient than just the plastic ones. I guarantee you. Let's get on to the video. That's what you're here for. Hope you enjoy it. I just want to take a moment and maybe set expectations as we begin to build the neck for this guitar. And this is just me thinking out loud, because I don't have any facts on this, but I think there's a lot of confusion out there. In fact, I would think probably more than 50% have a concept in mind for a guitar that probably isn't right. And that is, they probably assume that if you're buying a rosewood guitar, you would also probably get a rosewood neck. And that would not normally be the case. If you're buying a Padauk guitar, that you would think you would get a Padauk neck. Well, again, that would not be the normal case. Now, why do I say that? Well, generally speaking, at least as long as I've been doing this, I don't recall ever seeing a rosewood guitar with a rosewood neck. I don't think I've ever seen that. I just double checked this morning just to make sure I wasn't missing something in my concept here. I went back and looked at my 1968, I believe it is, guitar. It's a Gibson Jubilee Deluxe is what it is. And it is a rosewood back and sides. Beautiful piece of rosewood, by the way. And sure enough, it has a mahogany neck. And I thought it did, but I just wanted to double check. The first two guitars, I believe, that I made out of Padauk, I did put Padauk necks on them. But I'll never really probably do that again. Now, did it hurt anything? Not really, not acoustically anyway. Did it help anything? Not really, and not acoustically. Maybe it looked nice, you know. Not very many people look at a guitar neck, you know, for the looks anyway. It's more the feel. There are actually three primary negatives to using the actual same wood in the neck as in the body. The three negatives are, first of all, it's the expense. Now, personally, me, I don't care about the expense. I truly don't. That doesn't even enter into the equation, but I'm sure at the factories like Gibson and Martin and Taylor, it's a huge factor, I'm sure, because they'd be spending tons of money for guitar necks when they could use mahogany instead and be cheaper. Now, mahogany is not given away. It's not free. I mean, there's a certain expense there, and when I go to buy it, it's pretty expensive. But rosewood and Padauk are even more expensive. So having said that, expense is the first reason. The second reason, which begins to make a big deal to me, is how heavy it is. It actually unbalances your instrument. It's a very heavy wood, it's a very heavy neck. It doesn't feel natural to me to have all that extra weight in the neck. So that's reason number one to me that matters, but it's the second main reason. Reason number three to not use rosewood or Padauk in my case in the neck is the most important one to me, and that is, and I hate to use the word wasting, but in effect, that's what you're doing. You're wasting your very best tone wood in a place that it doesn't matter. You're wasting your tone wood in the neck, and you don't want to do that. It's a limited resource. It's a very important resource to the world and to all guitar builders, and therefore you don't want to use your very best tone producing woods in the neck because you don't get much back from that. And on a percentage basis, you're not even getting 1 or 2% back, you know, for the resource that you're using. The only percent you get back in using Padauk or rosewood in the neck, and it's a very minor get back, would be your sustain. You'll get more sustain by having a very heavy neck. But it doesn't feel natural, number one. And number two, it's not what I need to get back. You know, I get very good sustain out of my instruments as it is, so there's very little benefit. So I hope that, you know, sets the stage here for the fact that we're about to build this neck for this guitar, and we are going to use mahogany. We're going to start building the neck for this guitar. This is pretty much quarter sawn mahogany. It's the real stuff. And you can see it's nice ribboned on the one side. Now, I'm going to make sure that this vertical grain, the grain goes through the neck vertically, down through the neck. That makes the neck much stronger. I don't care what it looks like as long as it's strong. Generally, they look good too this way, but, you know, I'm not going to try to make this curly grain show out, although it will to some degree. I've got the table saw set. I've checked everything's perfectly square, and I'm going to saw 2 strips out of this. I decided to go ahead and cut the other 2 pieces while I had it. That'll make a neck down the road. Now you can see these vertical pieces. I'm going to turn them around so that they both curve in like this. There's a slight curve to it, very slight. It's almost straight up and down. But that way they're real symmetrical in terms of strength, and it should be a very strong neck that way. I've got curly maple, plenty of that. I've also got some of the yellow wood that I used in the striping in the back. And I thought, well, that yellow wood, which is hedge, Osage orange, is incredibly strong. It resists bending about as much as any kind of wood. So I'm going to put that as the centerpiece. I'm going to put the white maple on both sides, and then the transition into the mahogany. So I'm going to cut all 3 pieces at once to the same length. I've got these blocks laid out here the way I want to put it together. I've cut everything a little, it's quite a bit oversized. These 2 little blocks that are back here at the back will fill in the rest of the heel for the neck. This is the main part of the neck, obviously, and the peg head will be up here. So we just got to get glue on all these parts and get them stuck together. Once again, you can see that I use a lot of clamps. You can't really put too much pressure on something like that. I've got the big vise, and I've got it just torqued down to as tight as I can get it. Then I've got my biggest clamps on the ends, and I work in with the smaller clamps in the middle. I've got these end blocks clamped both directions. They're clamped up and down, and they're clamped sideways, so that they're pulled in real good and tight in all directions. When we're done carving it, you won't even hardly be able to tell that those are seamed in there. So you're going to have to wait 24 hours in order to see what I do with it next. Of course, for you, that's just going to be in about 1 more second. After major surgery on my bandsaw setup, the blade guides and all that, I really am having lots of trouble with these blade guides. These up here never seem to be much of a problem, but the ones down below, even though they're sealed bearings, they clog up and they just cause all kinds of problems. Just 2 weeks ago, I took them all apart, cleaned all the bearings, cleaned them all out where they worked again. And they quit working again, and so I had to take them apart again today. It's just a pain. Really a pain. I don't have time for that. I'm getting ready to do the neck layout, and I'm just going to eyeball the dead center of this yellow here because I can't seem to get any better anyway. That's pretty much dead center right there. And now I'm going to take 0.8425 off of both sides of that. that gives me the parameter, the width of the neck up at that end. And then I'll double just check that by, it never hurts to double check everything you're going to do on an instrument like this. 1.725, which is a little bigger than I actually need, so that should be fine. Now I need to find the width down at this end, and then we'll just draw straight lines. On the plan, the neck width is measured at the 12th fret, so I'm just going to, I've marked here about where the 12th fret should be, and I'll just find center there by eye. Okay, so now we should be able to connect the dots. Going to need some small wings on this peg head. This, believe it or not, this wood came out of the same thing. It doesn't look like it right now, but it's exactly the same. Came out of the same board. So I'm going to glue those on there. It's going to hold me up because of the drying time, but I think it'll save me time in the long run for actually cutting it out and everything. Then I'll just put that in the vise and clamp that down, let it go to lunch, and come back and then cut it out. Laying out the heel shape and size. This cut here is a cut that I'm always very concerned about. You've got to cut this angle. And the thing is, you don't want to let the angle cut into this part here. So when you're cutting through there, you've got to watch and make sure the blade comes out on this side of this and curls back out. It's just not that easy of a cut, and you can mess up your whole neck. So I like to cut it from the back side, which could be a little dangerous, but it's the best way to make sure though that you don't cut through your wood. You can see your line better, but you got to be careful. So here we go. I'm going to trim off some of this corner. I could do it with a rasp and it would be much safer, but it's quick with this if you're careful. And so I've got to be very careful and just pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm sure I can cut off a lot more of that with the saw, but for me it's just too risky. I can do it with a rough rasp very fast, and that's much safer. Well, that's a pretty good rough out on the first side. Basically, just going to do that same thing on the other side. Now that's just the rough rasp. Then I've got to switch to a much finer rasp and work out the details. But that's getting very, very close to what I'm looking for. we'll turn it over, do the other side, which you won't be able to see. I made a couple of wedges that are at the same taper as the peg head. I turn them opposite of the peg head so that the vice jaws can clamp down squarely on this peg head. And I might add that I made these wedges out of soft redwood, which is even softer than the mahogany, and therefore it shouldn't damage it much. But I've got it clamped in there pretty tightly, and now I'm working on the underside of the neck. That's really starting to feel like a nice neck now. Just about got all the contouring done right here that I need. Just a little bit more in this area, and then I think we're about almost ready for sanding. Although I'll probably save that until we get pretty close to the end. Spent a little bit of time off camera just cleaning this up, but you can see it's starting to turn out pretty darn nice. Got a little bit of work to do in these areas here, but not much, just almost there. Same way up here, it's got a little work to do around here. But I think what I'm going to do now, just for sanity check, is just to sand it down a little bit, even though it's early to sand it down. But I just want to feel it, and I think I'll feel it better when I know it's real smooth. And I'll know if I'm in the ballpark, I think. I'm really digging the look of that yellow and the white there. I think that looks pretty cool. You know, and you got to imagine it with stain or with finish over it, and it's going to darken up and, you know, and show off the color and the wood better. And so I think it's going to be really pretty. Yeah, that's pretty good for right now, I think. That gives me a better feel for it, and where I can tell if it's round. Here, you know, I think I can feel some spots in it. Not too bad though. Let's just kind of mock it up with the body now and see what we've got. You'll have to use your imagination a little bit, but I think that's going to look cool. That's going to look really nice. We get that mounted in there. And, you know, this yellow stripe kind of complements these yellow zigzags back here, these yellow chevrons. So I think that is going to look really nice together. And you know, this mahogany is going to darken up some too, and of course we could stain it if we wanted to, but I think we're gonna leave everything natural on this. I don't think we're gonna stain anything. But I think the contrast is just gorgeous myself. I like contrasting woods. I like to see all of that. I don't like to hide it up under stain and stuff. And of course, then it would look similar to this on this side. Of course, the fretboard would be there, but it's looking pretty good. Well, since we didn't get as much progress this week as I would have liked, we've got a little time to make some decisions on the fretboard. Now this is a beautiful rosewood fretboard, a dark fretboard. That's option number 1. Here's a lighter colored rosewood fretboard, option number 2. And then we have an ebony fretboard, option number 3. What option do you like? Let's just hear it in the comments. The customer is going to get the final say. I think the customer actually wanted a Paduke fretboard, and I will talk to him about that. I mean, that is doable, but I have to make that from scratch, and that's a considerable amount of work. And I quit making fretboards quite a few years ago because I really can't make a fretboard any better than you can buy. So, that's the point. But I can make one, and I can make one just as good as these out of Hadouk, but I want to talk to the customer about that because that would be quite an added amount of time to the instrument, because making a fretboard is pretty difficult to do. Every one of these slots is cut in thousandths of inches. In other words, it's not measured, you know, in eighths of an inch, and that's close enough. That's measured to the thousandth from here, and so on and so forth, all the way down. And trying to cut things to the thousandth of an inch is not that easy to do. So anyway, those are the options I have at the moment. The customer could change the option at his leisure, so we will talk to him and see where we go from there. Oh, and by the way, just in case anybody thought I might be exaggerating about how poorly these things are wired, OMG. Look at this. Ain't that special? Looky here. Looky here. That's how it's wired, boys and girls. It's twisted together. That's how it's wired. I mean, yeah, if it had a wire nut on it, that might be okay. It ain't got a wire nut on it. It's just got this piece of plastic stuck down over it and nothing holding the wire itself together. There's no soldering or anything. You know, I don't want to lose all my connectivity here so that I can know which way to solder. So there you go. I've seen in other videos where they actually weren't even together in the box, that they had already pulled loose. So there you go. I got a better cord, as you can see. I save all these little black cords that have these weird ends on them. They have little weird ends like that. I save them and put them in file, and then I use them for things like this down the road. So here's the cord that was on it. As you can see, not much there. Pretty crappy. That goes in the trash. I can't use that for anything. And this is the substantial cord that I'm putting on it. I've already tested it. I know it's wired correctly, so I'm just going to go ahead and solder these connections. You probably could get away with just a wire nut on these, but I don't plan to take this apart, so I don't see any reason not to solder it. And even if I do decide to take it apart, it's not very hard to get it apart. Just take a soldering gun to it. Okay, those are all soldered now. And I realize that they're hot, or they could be hot, but I'm going to plug it in just to make sure that it's still working. They're separated. Nobody's going to get hurt here. And it's blowing. So that's good enough. Now I have it's unplugged. I have a ground wire here that they didn't have. I would like to ground it to something, and I don't know if I see anything I can ground it to other than this piece of metal in here. And the only way I could ground that would be to put it in there, you know, to run this through and solder it in there. And there just happens to be a hole right here where I might be able to run it through. Kind of unconventional, but on the other hand, if it works, I don't care. Let me just see if I can scratch off some of this finish here. Let's see if it'll even solder. I think it did. Seems solid. That's the ground. You can see I'm pulling on the ground. It's picking up the whole thing, so I think it's solid to the body. At least now it's grounded. Not that it's going to make much difference on something like this, but I'm going to get some little tiny wire nuts and make sure this is all done correctly. What I'm doing is I'm cutting off the excess wire there so that the wire nut will go down over this, cover the entire connection. I can tell you for sure it's far better, far safer than it was. That's all I know for a black and white for sure. This stupid thing I don't think belongs on this little clip, and it's in the way. I don't think it matters to anything. It doesn't mount to anything. As far as I can tell. It's just taking up space. I'm going to clip that off. Space is a premium inside of this thing. There you go. Far safer than it was. Let's double check it and see how well it works. You can see there that it's spinning. The air's opened up. You can tell that air's going through there. Blowing out pretty good air, as a matter of fact. So, far better than it was. So yeah, when you buy one of these laser cutters, even other people on the internet have said, consider it a kit, a starting point. I rest my case.